So I've got a pair of REITs that I've been looking at, and they both reported earnings this week. One of them is Realty Income, based in the States, and it's basically shopping retail REIT. And the other one's Federal Realty, which is broadly a similar sort of thing. And both of these have done quite well. So FFO, funds from operations, which is the thing that we use to measure kind of REIT profitability, I guess, rather than net income or something like that, was up about 17% at Federal Realty, up about 15-16% at Realty Income. Both of them are holding up quite well. I guess with earnings reports in general, I always find them easier to make sense of if I have a kind of investment thesis or what I'm looking for before I kind of go in on these things. And here's what I'm looking at for both of these two. They're both retailers, and therefore I'm looking for signs that they're going to manage to be immune from the threat of e-commerce. Basically, I'm not looking to see things going backwards in certain ways. And they both try and do this in different ways. So Realty Income tries to stuff its properties full of really high quality, high debt caliber tenants that are likely to pay. And Federal Realty tries to buy stuff that's basically bang in the middle of big cities, because the thought being, if e-commerce leads people to wind up their retail operations, they're going to wind up their worst stores first, and the better ones are going to be largely untouched. More or less, they're doing kind of okay on both of these, it looks like. Realty Income has occupancy of around 98%, Federal Realty at around 92%. They give you this leased number, which is 94%, which is kind of a weird number because you get it by adding together the amount of occupied stores you have plus the amount you have signed to be occupied, which is sort of a strange number because you could get a number north of 100% like that, right? So if you're fully occupied and you've got 50% signed on for next year again, your lease number is 150, even though things look pretty grim. But things look all right. Both of these have hiked their dividends. Federal Realty for the 55th year in a row. Realty Income for the 99th consecutive quarter in a row. I wouldn't put money on them not doing that next quarter to get to three figures. But apart from that, fairly quiet, fairly steady stuff from these two. But just to give you a feel for... We don't talk about REITs very much. I'm looking for things to just carry on steadily. They've both been pivoting their portfolios around. Looks like things are going nicely enough there. FFO up quite nicely on both of them.
Yeah, I didn't know a lot about Realty Income, even though I own it. And so Realty Income for me is one of the swan stocks. So I will limit myself on Realty Income to a quick nose at the top line numbers every quarter, and then on the year, that's when I'll look at it. It's one of those stocks which I'll just kind of let run, and because I don't want to, I don't get knee deep in every single stock. But can I interest you in another REIT maybe that also released its earnings this week? That would be Segro, UK REIT, which I think has a lot. If you like those two REITs in the US, I think you'd like the earnings on Segro. So Segro this week released its earnings, revenue up 34%. I thought that might make Steve D quite happy because that is up as much as some of his high class growth stocks. Net income doesn't matter, net profit doesn't matter, operating income up 54%. So in the UK, that's not exactly the same as an FFO, but it's getting closer. I haven't released the FFO numbers, or in the UK they call it something different. But operating income up 54% and net change in cash up 518%. So they are holding cash to go buy something. Some of the big significant parts of it for me were you saying that Realty Income has an occupancy rate of around 97%. So does Segro. It's also got a 7% exposure to Amazon, and believe it or not, very recently, so Amazon is the big headline. Everybody knows that Segro has 7% in Amazon, and it runs their logistics websites, logistics sites, same as DHL, and I think Royal Mail as well. It has here in the UK, but the big one recently was it took on Netflix. Why would Netflix need big-ass buildings, I hear you ask? Believe it or not, they are running their own storage facilities and their own shoot locations from Segro's buildings. So Segro now has a big lockup on Netflix as well. Very, very interesting stuff. Total shareholder return in 2021, a little bit less in 2022, but it's up 55% total return, and very high demand for Segro's buildings. Downside is it's still probably 30 times FFO. It's still 30% over NAV, so there's still a value bit there, but I got in probably 10% ago. I added a bit more, and yeah, I think people should look to the UK for REITs. Oh yeah, sorry, 17% increase in data center exposure as well, which is something I think people need to watch very carefully. It actually has Equinix and what's the other one? Cyrus One. Cyrus One is the other one. It's got those two as customers here in the UK. So I think Segro, and I said this probably 2 years ago, this is a well-rounded REIT, and I'm very, very interested in it. I think it's about 70% of FFO goes towards dividends, 2.5% dividend yield. Not that it matters too much because it's moving like a growth stock at the moment. Very interested. What do you think? Any thoughts on that? Have you ever looked at it?
I haven't. Well, I kind of looked at it a little bit. I got to I slowed down my looking when I saw kind of where it was priced because I looked a bit more recently than you did. But Amazon and warehouses. I mean, the story coming out of the States is that Amazon have started trying to wind back their warehousing thing, at least out there anyway, and that's put some pressure on some industrial REITs out there. Nothing similar in this side of the pond, I guess.
Have they been winding it down, or are they just holding it? Because I thought they were just holding it.
I think they're letting it out.
Okay.
So I say winding it down. I mean,
yeah,
not using it as much. Yeah.
Yeah, fair enough. They can do what they want as long as they're paying the rent. That's it.
Yeah, I guess kind of seems they are. I guess that Amazon don't own their own warehouses in quite the same way over this side then.
No, it's I think it's 14% from Tritax and 7% on Segro, and there are obviously little bits in between, but I think it's mostly leased. But also, you've got to consider with Amazon, and I don't think it's that big of a story because it is only 7% of their revenue. I think that's well diversified in my opinion. With Amazon, the capex spend that they've been doing over the past 2 years, they're able to hold on to that and let that build to fruition in future years. I think that's what we're all holding on to when we own Amazon at the moment, and I think the leases are going to stay.
So anyone who owns Amazon is indirectly paying your dividends for you.
That's the plan. Amazon's a dividend stock now. Have that. I'll justify that in my next video.